إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن محمدا عبد الله ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. أوصيكم ونفسي بتقوى الله عز وجل كما جاء في محكم التنزيل: يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله ولتنظر نفس ما قدمت لغد واتقوا الله إن الله خبير بما تعملون. Dear brothers and sisters, we begin with an abundant praise and gratitude towards our beloved Creator that has given us life. We have extracted from Al-Hayy that He has given us life from His life. Al-Qayyum, He is the maintainer and organizer of all affairs. And He has dictated and guided us that we must use our conscious intellectual capacity to best maintain the affairs of our life in which we have control that He has allowed us. And that is the subject of our sermon today. It is reaching and attaining what we call Salahh. And if you do not have it, or if you have it and you would like it for others, which is the natural conclusion, then Islahh. These two beautiful terms that come up so many times in the Quran. Salahh could be translated as upright, virtuous, righteous, well-established, reaching capacity, basically. So if you want to translate it as like some sort of a, methodological or terminological, it would be something reaching full capacity to best fulfill the aim for which it was intended. Right? This is what this is the best translation of the meaning of Salahh. To be living upright, to fulfill your potential in the best way and in the best manner. Islahh would be to make that happen, to bring about that reality in yourself and in others. So this is reform, right? Islahh is reform, to make things better, right? So this is our discussion today, and we're going to talk about it in various angles, and I hope that we leave here hoping to become people who deserve the place of contentment with our beloved Creator. So if you're talking about, say for example, clothing. Clothing can be salih and it could be fasid, right? It could be properly fulfilling its aim, or it could not. So say for example, your clothing has holes, or it doesn't properly clothe you. It does not clothe your nakedness. Then it would not be fulfilling its responsibility, right? Same thing, clothing is supposed to adorn you. So if you have stains and all of that, then it is not fulfilling its responsibility as well. So you have a car. The car is supposed to take you from point A to point B. If it's not working right, then it's not salih. It's not doing its responsibility, right? And you have a phone, right? My son recently, playing with my phone, destroyed the screen. So now it's not salih anymore. I can't see what I'm going to do, and now I have to figure out what to do about this, because the phone is not fulfilling its capacity in the best means and manner. So what we're talking about today is the human salahh, that the human being, what was it? وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. Our purpose, our main purpose, why we have been given this amazing consciousness and creative intellectual capacity to do things, is to serve the purpose of the Creator by conscious decision that we choose in and of ourselves. That is what the goal and the aim of creating human beings are. So we all have been created in quote-unquote the likeness of God. Meaning what? We have this creative intellectual capacity to make the world around us the way we like it. and we can make it really good and productive and take care of it, or we can cause corruption and destruction and chaos, which is the opposite of what we were supposed to do, because obviously God has told us to become salihin, right? And that's the nations of the world, they're split up like that, right? وَقَطَّعْنَاهُمْ فِي الْأَرْضِ أُمَمًا مِنْهُمُ الصَّالِحُونَ وَمِنْهُمْ دُونَ ذَلِكَ وَبَنَوْنَاهُمْ بِالْحَسَنَاتِ وَالسَّيِّئَاتِ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْجِعُونَ. The Quran tells us, He's explaining to all of mankind, I've dispersed mankind throughout the world into different nations. And so there's going to be nations that are upright and virtuous, and there are going to be nations that are not so upright and virtuous. And then He said, I have tested these people with good things, with benefit, with wealth, with knowledge, and I have tested these things with calamity, disease, sickness, and hardship. They should look into all of that, seeking to return to the goodness and the well-being that God has created us to achieve. We know that more than anything, we should be seeking to have this righteous lifestyle. If we want God's help and His favor and His guardianship, then we have to work for it, right? It says, إِنَّ وَلِيِّيَ اللَّهُ الَّذِي نَزَّلَ الْكِتَابَ وَهُوَ يَتَوَلَّى الصَّالِحِينَ. My guardian is God, who sent down the scripture and revealed it to the prophets, and He will take care of and be the guardian for those who work righteousness and who are upright and to make good in the world and make the world a better place, fulfilling their duty in serving their merciful Creator, right? So this is what we're here to do. This is how we reach our potential. So the Quran tells us about learning from our mistakes, not staying the same way. And so here is the nature of culture. The nature of culture, it has this capacity to try to force you to stay the same way, and to your kids and for everybody that you live around to be the same way, right? This is the wrong understanding of conservatism. Right? So, okay, the way we are, how we do things, we don't change it, we don't question it, that's it. That's who we are and what we do. And that's not right, because at all times people are making mistakes and they're learning to do things better. So proper conservatism in Islam is to use the values found in the Quran and the Sunnah and deal with things, our mistakes that we all have and all nations and all individuals have, and look to fix them. Not to explain them away or justify them or not deal with them or be aware of them, which is the worst case scenario. And to learn from the benefit and the growth and the development that the human race is achieving, and to fix the way we do things accordingly. This is Salahh. This is conservative in Islam, to be growing with the times and developing and changing as we go. That's why we're always saying, Ihdina as-sirata al-mustaqim. Sirata al-mustaqim has many facets and applications that are different from time to place and circumstances, according to all of the scholars of usul al-fiqh, derivation methodologies. And that's why you have different scholars with different opinions throughout history, because they're dealing with the times and interpreting to lead the people in their reality. So once we learn from mistakes, we are expected to seek higher goals and to not fall back into corruption, right? If you look right now at the Muslim world, what is the biggest problem is stagnance. It's stuck. And whenever it talks about doing good, it says, oh, the West, what are they doing good? And they follow them in all the worst things. They find the worst things that they do, and they want to follow them in all of those and take those as the example, right? And all the good things that's happening from the mutaqaddim al-alam, the world of the developed nations, they are not following and moving forward with those things in Salahh. Right? And so this is the dilemma we are facing as individuals and as a community and as a nation. We have to be seeking to grow and develop in a positive way. And so the Quran tells us, وَلَا تُفْسِدُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ بَعْدَ إِصْلَاحِهِ وَادْعُوهُ خَوْفًا وَطَمَعًا إِنَّ رَحْمَةَ اللَّهِ قَرِيبٌ مِّنَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. So the Quran tells us that do not cause corruption after it has been established what is a better way of doing things. Right? Don't fall back to a worse way. Don't stay with a worse way when you have come to know that there's something wrong with that. Right? And we're going to go into some detail. Right now we're giving you the general outline of the situation, right? And so America, in my personal opinion, for what I've lived in my short life and traveled to many countries, alhamdulillah, is the best place to live and promote Islam in my personal assessment. And I've found that to be true amongst many of the people. And I would assume you think the same thing, otherwise why would you choose to live here? Right? If you're going to live somewhere, you want to be able to live Islam and promote Islam in the best way. We would not choose dunya over akhirah, would we? We would not. That's why you're all here, alhamdulillah. So we've agreed on that point. So in this reality, I would say that it is not because of the current reality and situation and function of America. It's because of the way it was built, the way it was intended, right? And we'll go back to the definition, right? That Salahh and Islahh is to best fulfill the potential in the best way of what it was intended to be. Right now, the current reality of America is not so much the reason why it is so great. But the way it was intended, the Constitution and the founding principles and concepts would lead to Islam flourishing and the morals and values of Islam for those who choose not to follow Islam to become prevalent, because it wants the well-being of people and their interests to be served, not the upper echelon that is now currently running the show, the corporate America and the military complex and the political influence that they exert over the arena of power in this country, right? So we have a lot of potential here in this country if we look into it. And so if the right people assert their influence in this country, and historically moves have been made to do that, in which better things came of this country. If the right people assert their influence, Muslim and non-Muslim, then this country will be the best place on earth to live for anyone. I'm not sure if that's the reality right now. As we said, unfortunately the values are not being lived up to. Equally true is Muslims. We have values. That's why we always say, do not judge Islam by Muslims. Don't judge what an Islamic state is by some people calling themselves an Islamic state, because they are completely far and removed from that in so many ways and forms and methods, right? So just because somebody grew a beard and prays 5 times a day, we don't say, oh, whatever this guy does, sister wears hijab, so now everything she thinks and does must be right. No. We have a lot of work to do as individuals who are spiritually connected to our Creator, and we have a lot of work to do as people who have chosen America as our home, and this is where we will have the most potential to fulfill our destiny in serving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and doing good for the creation around us in a productive way. This is our responsibility. لا خير في كثير من نجواهم إلا من أمر بصدقة أو معروف أو إصلاح بين الناس. Right? The Quran says it's not good for people to get, to be all secretive and have discussions amongst themselves unless it's for 3 possible things. And the analogy is there. Whoever would call to giving money to people who are in need, but they don't want to embarrass that person. Whoever would arrange groups of people to work for a moral, well-valued improvement on society, or to make peace and goodness between people and to bring good values to the forefront. That's what the Quran tells us about how people should gather together. I remember once I was in a Muslim country, and there's a brother, we went through all this thing just to go talk about the seerah at this brother's house. And he told me, yeah, they have a rule that if 6 or more people sit and read the seerah together, you can be arrested. And I was like, isn't this a Muslim country? He was like, well, they call it a Muslim country and we're all Muslims here. But unfortunately, they make laws against Islam thriving in this country, right? Because the leaders really don't want Islam, they want power. And they want to have that power and control. And so however they can best do that, they will. And they know Islam is a very powerful force in and of itself, particularly if it is properly applied, right? Everybody knows that this group ISIS is no good and junk because we look at what they are. And I think that when the real Islam comes, that is what they're really concerned about, right? Because then they will lose all their power because justice will come and they are unjust rulers, right? So they're kind of basking in this situation. Oh, see, that's what's going to happen if any person follows Islam. Even those people are using this same attitude. So as Muslims, we need to work together to build society on true Islam, pure Quranic Sunnah model and values, as the Prophet ﷺ did with Mecca and Medina. So anybody who currently studies the reality of the capitalist system of how our country is run, and I say run because the capitalism influences the political structure and how the laws are made, right? I mean, they just made a law that a few years ago that corporations are people, right? So the corporations basically can 501c4s, if you don't know about that, you should study it. It's a very interesting thing that they have out there. They can just give all this money and then puppeteer the politicians. And that the Supreme Court made that decision, right? So now they're doing that, and so now we're all being ruled by these 1%, 2% of the people who have all the money. So the founders of this system, like Ayn Rand, she admits, Ayn Rand says, capitalism is not a moral structure. Nobody should claim that. Capitalism is a dog-eat-dog system, right? It's a survival of the fittest thing. If I have the special means and I was born with the special connections and I have, you know, a desire to win in the arena of finance and I'm willing to cause harm to other people while doing it, then I will succeed, right? Because it's just about me, you know? It's that's how they're admitting that that is the case. So you got to work hard and be willing to not sacrifice for the well-being of others, but sacrifice others' well-being for yourself. You see? That's capitalism. That's how it works. And that is not me or the moral or the Muslim or the Christian people talking. That's their own books, right? The Atlas Shrugged and all those books that they founded it on, that's what they say. So there are upright corporations in America, and there are good, moral people with lots of wealth out there. And I would like to today focus on one example that is amazing that recently happened. So I was deeply impressed by the recent how many of you know who CVS is? CVS, what is a CVS? Yeah, you got Walgreens, you got CVS. Those are your two main. Rite Aid's trying to do something, but you know, they're not in the game, right? It's like, you know, somewhere in there. But CVS and Walgreens are big competitors, clashing, right? And they both make billions and billions and billions of dollars, right? They are huge pharmaceutical, healthcare based, retail accustomed entities, right? And so in this big fight between these two big dogs in this capital world, the CEO of CVS, as a collective decision from their board and all of their major investors, they realized an issue that needed to be changed, right? And so when you think about the way things work right now, when something needs to be changed, it means we need to increase our margins. We have to have more money. Money, money, money. I was watching something of this guy from the Johnson & Johnson family who inherits, you know, millions and millions and millions of dollars for doing nothing, right? He was doing an interview with the guy who's the CEO of FedEx. And he was talking about how he could make things better on the people and the workers and the people at large if he would just be willing to sacrifice a few more $1 million a year from his salary, right? He's already making many million, right? And he said, I won't do that because that's my right. I'm going to make the millions. I'm not going to make life easy on anybody. He's exemplifying, he's clarifying the reality. The devilish worship, ta'isa la'abadat dinar wa dirham, as the Prophet ﷺ said, that the person who worships money is a failure and should be worrying about their eternal reality. So basically, this CVS decision was, we're going to remove all tobacco from our shelves. Any tobacco products, CVS has decided we're going to get rid of it, right? And the reasoning was because it is written in their vision statement. Everybody has a mission statement and a vision statement, all corporations. And it says that their vision statement is, we strive to improve the quality of human life, right? So they got all these people dying on cigarettes, right? And many people having their mouths removed from the tobacco they put in their lip and in their cheek. And all these other things happening, right? And there is a scientific fact in the medical community that has been known since the late 70s and mid 80s, quite widespread, that there is no health benefit whatsoever from smoking. There is no benefit. It stinks, it wastes your money, and it is harmful to your health. It's like somebody came to you one day and said, look, here's what I do. I take a little drop of bleach and I just put it on my head. Like, why are you doing that? It's cool, you know, the people were doing it, and I started doing it. I just put a little bleach on my head. And I start to get this feeling, it's a little bit of a rush. But, you know, I know my heart is racing, my system is breaking down. I'm now more prone to diabetes, and the glucose is not working, and insulin and all that as well because I'm doing this. But it's cool, you know, I just put a little bleach on my head. That's the new thing that we're doing. Right? This is no different whatsoever than smoking, right? But because your environment, those of you who are smoking, told you that that's normal, and you bought it, right? It's now time to wake up to Islahh. Let's change, right? Right? Let's become a person who is logic, reasonable, moral, and willing to sacrifice for fixing ourselves, right? That's what we have to do. So, after all of these complaints, CVS changed its name from Caremark to CVS Health, right? So the facts show that last year, close to 400,000 Americans were killed by tobacco products, by smoking. 400,000, right? So those that were killed by terrorism in the history of America before this whole Qaeda thing that popped up out of nowhere and became some big deal all of a sudden, very mysteriously, you know, there was not even half of that killed in the whole history of America. But last year, 400,000 Americans were killed by tobacco products. This is the CDC. This is the admittance of the government agencies. So we have to look at this example. When the CEO was asked, you know how much they're losing now? Are you ready for this? CVS will lose close to $2 billion in annual revenue every year by this decision, right? It is totally and completely antithesis to the capitalist system that this country is based on. And it is totally and completely an Islamic, moral, Sharia-based decision, right? Now ask yourself how many Muslim corporations are doing this, right? So before we start, you know, claiming kuffar and all that, we better fix our own home, in-house. We got a lot of stuff to fix, right? And so the CEO was asked on one of these, what is that, NBC, the one where the guy is crazy and he does all the things. So the guy asked him, he says, okay, but why would you make such a decision? You know, your investors and blah, blah, blah. He said, as a matter of fact, we discussed it. We know of people close that have died from tobacco, and we know our vision statement, and so we realized we are not in the business of retail consumerist profit. We are in the business of healthcare. So we are living a contradiction, right, if we do not change this policy, regardless of how much money we lose. We are called. So when you go back to Salahh, it is to properly fulfill the best capacity in what you were intended for. They applied the concept of Salahh by the letter. CVS, non-Muslims, not knowing anything about Islam, right? But it's just a moral decision that you will not find in many places in the earth, right? It's just somebody's waking up. It's called post-modernity. We're starting to realize all the corruption, and we need to stop the corruption. It's not good for society, because the current system does not pay attention to individual and social welfare. It is most about how you can make as much money as you can, and your freedom and desire to do whatever you want to do with your money, regardless of how it hurts you or other people, right? That is the system. That's how the way the world, or particularly America, but with globalization, the whole world is working. Like right now, they're talking about the Ebola virus, right? Do you know how many people have been killed by the Ebola virus in the last year? 4,000. 4,000. In the last year, cigarette smoke is 100 times more deadly and dangerous than the Ebola virus. Why don't we keep hearing about it on all news stations? Because it makes money. Lots of money. Ebola don't make you no money, right? You see what's going on? We live in a society that worships money to the detriment of human beings' lives. You know? How many have killed more? Cigarettes in the last year or ISIS? Right? But ISIS, it's not making you any money. Well, maybe around about the military complex is making their money through ISIS, right? But in general, it's not making money, right? So this is what's the problem, right? So the question is, we as Muslims, we as the servants of God, those who live for the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, How could we do something like that? How could we smoke? How could we own a gas station and sell cigarettes, not just cigarettes, alcohol, pornography, lottery and gambling and everything else? How could it be that one could say, I'm a Muslim? A Muslim is not a statistic, it's not a cultural, nationalistic, ethnic, it means submitter to the will of God. Right? That's what the word means. One who decides, I would choose to live for God's will at the detriment of something that's in my desire. Something that I want, like money, like the CVS guy. He's willing, they are willing, all the people of CVS, mostly non-Muslims, the vast majority, are willing to sacrifice $2 billion for what is right and morally righteous. Now, where are the Muslims on this one? That's the question. Our religion, Islam teaches us, CVS is right, y'all need to be doing that, right? The question is, what are we doing, right? How could it be that a Muslim could go get into a career or take a decision about what to do with their life that they know it's not morally upright? I don't know how many parents keep asking me, my kid, I'm not able to give them an education, my child wants to go to the military. Did you know what the military is doing? Did you study that? Just go read it. What's the military doing? How is it? What's it doing? Is it good? Is it valuable? Is it something morally upright? No way. Why would we be involved in that? We would not. Not for an education. We'll find some other way to take an education. Right? Similarly, this is the big one. The halal restaurant. What does halal mean? It means lawfully permissible. Something that God is pleased with. Halal. That's what it means. You can go in there and everybody's smoking shisha and all this sexually explicit videos and music and all this stuff that's going on in there. The waitress comes up and the cleavage is in your face or whatever, right? I'm not saying we're going to build some Islamic state or something, right? But at least we should work on our morals and values and try to apply them in the best way that we could, right? There's a lot to do. We Muslims have a lot of work to do, and we have beautiful guidance leading us in that direction. وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, they know God, they know His will, they believe in Him, they trust Him. وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. It's always together. You have to work for righteousness. Anybody that ever did work knows it takes sacrifice and it's not easy. Working is not easy. It's not the easiest way, right? So this is what we have to do. So we must make choices to lead a morally upright lifestyle. We must make choices to build a family with morally upright values and focus to build a better world around us. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه فإنه هو الغفور الرحيم. بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. I met a young man in Florida who is a very sharp guy, very smart, intellectual person. He's taken to spirituality, he's listening to the scholars, he's going to the different conferences and things like that, and seminars. And he has finished his undergrad in medicine, and he's, mashallah. So he was telling me, I'm going to go study, I want to study Islam and Sharia and all of that stuff. I was like, mashallah, that's great. We need people like you to lead and to be an example in all of this. And then he told me, but I have one problem. My dad says no. And I said, why would your dad say no? My dad has decided that I'm going to be a doctor, right? And I said, but your dad's not you, right? Some Muslims say, that's the big thing with Islam. People use it for their own, like it's something they want to own, right? Islam says, bir al-walidain, ta'at al-walid. So now do what I tell you. You're my slave. This is not Islam. There's rahmah, there's respect, there's human dignity. وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ كُلُّهُمْ أَبْنَاء الآباء, all of them. Parents, children, everybody has to be honored, right? This is an intellectual person who is very dedicated and spiritually devoted, and the parents are saying, no, we will not accept you to study Islamic law and to become a scholar of Islam. Right? And even another person in his family said, those people, they don't do nothing for the world and this and that. And that's also a problem. People understand that to be an imam is to just lead prayers, right? Who should be paid for leading a prayer? That is wrong. That's ethically completely incorrect. To say say your job is to lead prayers. If you're not at the prayer, then you're somehow not doing what we paid you to do. What? This is wrong, right? An imam should be a leader for everyone, influencing society, building bridges, building the means to create a better world with the youth, with the believers and the non-believers, with the parents and the children, and all of the great things, influencing economy and health and education and all of those good things. That is what it should be. And this brother was ready to do that. And his dad told him, no, you can't do it. He said, what is this? We have to make decisions for ourselves that are in the best interest of ourselves. We have to guide our family, and we have to accept good inclinations. We have to, people that want to do good things, we have to encourage them. There was a sister. She wanted to become a journalist. I want to write because all this bad anti-Islam stuff is out there, and I want to write true stuff, and I want to bring true journalism back to light. The dad said, no, you will be a pharmacist. We will have pharmacists in our family. What is this? It's dunya. As a Muslim, we should be willing to sacrifice materialistic desires and interests for the well-being of our eternity. And that is the service of God, and that was what will make the world a better place. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sincerity, that we be motivated towards righteousness, piety, uprightness in all of our affairs. We ask our beloved Creator to make us creative people who do good for the world. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to have mercy upon us and make us of those who spread mercy. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive us and make us of those people who are deserving of forgiveness. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to raise up a nation of believers who truly follow Islam and embody that the world can see the values that are found in the prophetic tradition. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us a desire to work hard and sacrifice for making a better world. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to unify our hearts and to remove from us the filth of nationalism and ethnic attachments, and to become spiritually attached to all of those who are interested in good morals and values. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make His mercy and compassion on all of those Muslims who are struggling with tests and tyranny and occupation and corruption all across the world, in Syria, in Palestine, in Burma, and everywhere else where they're facing struggle and difficulty. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to send His peace and blessings and mercy upon His final messenger Muhammad.